How many of y'all, just by show of hands, think that it makes sense to wear a mask? Raise your hand, okay? How many of you think doesn't matter at all? You may feel like you have the right to say no to wearing a mask, but if you say no to wearing a mask, do you also have the responsibility to then respect the rights of others to not put them in jeopardy if in fact it is jeopardy to be around them if you don't wear a mask? Mm-hmm. Does the right of not wearing a mask come with the responsibility to be extra cautious?
Yes, and I do take those precautions by respecting the 6 feet distance, not to sneeze on them, not to cough on them. Make sure that if I ever feel sick, like if I have a cold or flu, maybe stay home. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But here's a question that I have, Dr. Phil. If masks work so well, as you stated, according to what the CDC and the WHO state, then if they're wearing a mask, then if the masks work so well, then why are people so afraid of catching it from someone who's more than 6 feet or 6 feet away from them?
The CDC guidelines, the World Health Organization guidelines, you listen to the experts that I've had on the show, you talk to the infectious disease experts, they will tell you that the best approach is a multi-layered approach. Social distancing, wearing masks, washing your hands, being careful about cleaning surfaces, that it's a number of things that all together can be effective in quelling this pandemic. I think we have to dispel myths. I think we have to put out truth, and then we have to take the politics out of it. And the reason that I'm talking about this flyer that you're putting out is I think there were, I don't know how many things there, 6 of them. Every one of those things is false. And I think that is a very dangerous narrative to be putting out.
It wasn't a very dangerous narrative 2 months ago before new information and new data was released.
No, that's just not true. It was false when you put it out. It's false today. Listen, all of this stuff that was in these pamphlets they were handing out, that stuff is absolutely just wrong. They were putting out false information. Look, here's the deal. Early on, CDC was saying masks don't matter. That was a position very, very early on because they were saying that it's not an airborne disease. But very quickly, they began to realize that this was broadcast in droplets from the respiratory system and that a mask, of course, helps. And their position now, you have to read it very carefully with the World Health Organization because it says a fabric mask doesn't help, but a medical mask does. And this is a medical mask. They're not talking about an N95 mask. They're just talking about a medical mask that has an insert. It doesn't have to be an N95 mask with a respirator. They're just talking about a medical mask that has the kind of material that you need, that it definitely helps so you don't broadcast the droplets, nor do you bring in the droplets. And then people come and say, well, the molecules of the virus are so tiny that they would penetrate through the weave of the mask. That's what the anti-mask people say. Well, that's true. That's true. But they're carried in droplets, and the droplets are bigger than the weave of the mask, and they don't get through. So there's no question a mask does help. It absolutely does help. I've read all of the research, and people say, well, they say one thing here and one thing another, and the science is always changing. A very consistent theme after the very first few weeks is that a mask does help. Washing your hands does help. Social distancing does help. Those things do help.